is. There are moments in politics that do not collapse through one major defeat, but through a short clip replayed at exactly the right time. For weeks, Donald Trump told America that a deal with Iran was very close, not just once, not merely as an offhand remark. He repeated the same message again and again. We are very close. Iran wants a deal. War is about to end. Peace is right at the door. It was the kind of language Trump uses very well, offering no concrete details, chessboard, but creating the feeling that he is controlling the entire chessboard. The problem is that time was not on his side. One day passed, then a week, then several weeks. The promises that things were almost done began piling on top of each other. Every time Trump said, very close, reality outside answered with another attack. Another oil market shock, another warning from the markets, another debate in Congress, another question from the very people who once defended him. And then Fox News, the place where Trump usually expects political cover, did something his opponents no longer needed to do. They replayed his own words. A montage, a sequence of statements, clip after clip. Trump said the deal was almost finished. Trump said Iran wanted a deal. Trump said it might take only 2 or 3 more days. Trump said everything was going very well. And then the Fox host only needed to ask one simple question. That was 9 weeks ago. There's no long speech needed, no outrage needed, no heavy-handed analysis needed. Just place time next to words, and the illusion collapses by itself. That was an important moment because Trump was not being criticized only by left-wing media or Democratic lawmakers. He was being checked by the very conservative media infrastructure that helped sustain his image for years. When Fox began replaying Trump's receipts, the issue was no longer that the opposition was saying he had failed. The issue was that even people inside his own ecosystem could no longer keep pretending that promise and reality were still moving together. From this perspective, the Iran story is not only a foreign policy crisis. It is the ultimate test of Trump's political style, the politics of declaration, the politics of delay, the politics of personal belief that if he says something forcefully enough, often enough, and confidently enough, reality will be forced to follow. But war does not operate like a press conference. Iran does not disappear because Trump says they are dying to make a deal. The Strait of Hormuz does not automatically reopen because he says everything is progressing well. Gas prices do not fall because he tells the market to stay calm. Inflation does not stop pressing down on people simply because the White House wants them to believe the war is about to end. And Congress cannot remain on the sidelines forever when a prolonged conflict begins touching its constitutional authority. In the original transcript, the sharpest blow against Trump lies in the contradiction between two realities. On one hand, he wants the public to believe that America is not really at war, or at least not at a level that requires congressional intervention. On the other hand, conservative commentators, military experts, and even Fox itself have begun using the language of war. When they say war, they unintentionally open the door Trump wanted to keep closed. If this is war, then where is Congress? This point is extremely important. The U.S. Constitution does not give the president unlimited power to drag the country into a long-term war without congressional authorization. The president has the authority to command the military, but the power to declare war and approve a major conflict still belongs to Congress. In modern practice, American presidents have repeatedly expanded their military authority by calling attacks limited actions, self-defense, counterterrorism, deterrence, or regional stabilization. But the longer such actions continue, the harder that language can hide their true nature. If American aircraft attack, if American warships blockade, if American troops are placed in combat situations, if Iran retaliates, if a strategic strait is closed, if global oil prices shake, if Americans pay higher gas prices because of that conflict, then this is no longer a small move on the diplomatic chessboard. It is war in the political, economic, and constitutional sense. And when Fox acknowledges that, even briefly in a television exchange, Trump loses a very important layer of fog. For years, Trump built an image as someone who could avoid endless wars. He attacked previous presidents for getting bogged down in the Middle East. He said he understood the art of negotiation, understood strength, understood how to make opponents concede without pulling America into a quagmire. But Iran has become a test that slogans cannot solve. Because with Iran, Trump wants to play three roles at once. He wants to be the tough president, the one who dares to bomb, dares to threaten, dares to say Iran must submit. He wants to be the peace negotiator, the one who can declare that a deal is coming, the war is almost over, oil will fall, and markets will stabilize. And he wants to be the man outside responsibility, the one who does not have to ask Congress for permission, does not have to be blamed by voters for gas prices, and does not have to be seen as having opened a new war in the Middle East. Those three roles cannot coexist for long. If he is tough enough for the war to escalate, he must bear political responsibility for the war. If he is the great negotiator, he must produce results, and cannot simply repeat, almost done for 9 weeks. If he says this is not war, but people see oil prices, attacks, blockades, Hormuz, and war powers of the situations, they will no longer believe his labeling of the situation. Trump's biggest problem is not that he promised a deal. Presidents make promises. The problem is that he turned the promise into a tool of political delay. Every time he said, a few more days, he bought more time. Every time he said, Iran wants a deal more than I do, he created the impression that the other side was weak. Every time he said very close, he reassured the markets and voters. But when enough time passed, reassurance turned into evidence against him. 9 weeks of almost done is no longer diplomacy. It is loss of control wrapped in confident language. The Strait of Hormuz is where reality hits Trump's story the hardest. This is not some distant detail on a map. It is one of the most important energy arteries in the world. When traffic through the strait is disrupted or threatened, oil rises, liquefied natural gas is affected, supply chains shake, stock markets react, and people at gas stations begin to feel the war through their wallets. For American voters, war often feels distant until it enters gas bills, food prices, transportation costs, inflation, and interest rates. A conflict in the Middle East may begin as foreign news, but very quickly it becomes a domestic story. Farmers see diesel prices. Workers see gasoline prices. Small business owners see transportation costs. Consumers see goods that refuse to get cheaper. And when they ask why life is more expensive, the answer cannot forever be Biden. That is where Trump is trapped. He can blame the past for a while. He can say the economy was destroyed before he returned. He can say inflation is the legacy of the previous administration. But when he is the one ordering attacks, when his policies shake energy markets, when the Iran war becomes a factor pushing prices upward, then power is no longer a stage for boasting about achievements. It becomes a place where responsibility is received, and voters do not live inside press releases. They live inside bills. That is why the economic section in the transcript matters so much. The Iran war cannot be separated from gas prices, inflation, wages, and voter mood. Trump may want to talk about military victory, but people are asking about affordability. Trump may want to say Iran has been decimated, but people ask why. If Iran has been crushed, it can still launch missiles, use drones, rearm, and disrupt the region. Trump may say everything is going according to plan, but even conservative voices are beginning to ask, if everything is going according to plan, why do we still need more bombs, more explanations, a few more days, a few more weeks? That question kills the myth of absolute control. One of the most interesting things in the Fox discussion was the discomfort emerging inside the conservative camp itself. It was no longer one unified chorus. One side wanted to say Iran had nearly been knocked out. Another side asked why. If that was true, they could still attack. One side wanted to believe the military campaign had succeeded. The other warned that Hormuz was still being held hostage, the markets were still tense, and a deal was still uncertain. One side wanted to maintain faith in Trump. The other was forced to look at the data and the realities of the region. This is the crack Trump does not want to see. For Trump, Fox is not just a television channel. It is the emotional maintenance system for his political base. When Fox repeats his message, the base hears confirmation. When Fox doubts him, the base begins to receive permission to doubt. And in MAGA politics, being allowed to doubt can sometimes be more dangerous than an attack from Democrats. Because Trump supporters can ignore the New York Times. They can laugh at CNN. They can call MSNBC fake news. But when Fox replays Trump's own words one by one and concludes that 9 weeks have passed without a deal, that is much harder to dismiss. It is like the family telling itself that something is wrong. From here, the story that Fox abruptly dumped Trump should not be understood simply as Fox completely turning its back on Trump. It is more subtle than that. Fox does not need to betray him. Fox only needs to stop protecting him for a moment. It only needs to let the clips speak for themselves. It only needs to ask the question voters are already thinking. It only needs to say, we have been hearing this deal is coming story for too long. In television politics, that moment is damaging enough. Because Trump depends on the illusion that he is always moving forward. He is the man of the deal, the man of results, the man of speed. The man who can walk into a room and solve what the diplomatic elites have failed to solve for years. But Iran has turned that promise into a countdown clock running against him. Every day without a deal is another day. The image of the deal maker is eroded. Even if a preliminary agreement eventually appears, the problem will not disappear. Because then the question will shift from, is there a deal, to what is this deal? Does it actually resolve Iran's nuclear program? Or is it merely a vague memorandum for Trump to declare victory? Does it reopen the Strait of Hormuz in a stable way? Or does it merely create a temporary pause for the markets? Will it be accepted by relevant parties such as Israel, Iran, Gulf states, and Europe? Or is it only a fragile framework used to buy time before the midterm elections? Trump loves deals with big visuals. Signing ceremonies, declarations, flags, cameras, praise. But real diplomacy does not end with the signing image. It begins with the details of implementation. Who monitors the ceasefire? Who ensures ships can safely pass through Hormuz? What must Iran do with its enriched uranium? How far does the U.S. go in lifting sanctions? Will Israel accept a halt to attacks? Are proxy forces in the region bound by the agreement? If one side violates it, what is the response mechanism? If there is only a memorandum without an enforcement structure, it may be peace on television while instability continues on the ground. That is why the transcript shows strong skepticism toward the phrase memorandum of understanding. A memorandum may be enough for Trump to declare victory, but not enough for a region to stop burning. It may be enough for markets to breathe easier for a few days, but not enough for Americans to believe gas prices will stabilize for months. It may be enough for Fox to have a positive headline, but not enough to erase 9 weeks of unfulfilled promises. And that is Trump's paradox at this moment. He needs a deal so badly that the need itself weakens the deal. When a president enters negotiations under enormous domestic pressure, the other side knows it. Iran knows Trump needs lower oil prices. Iran knows he needs to stop the slide in the polls. Iran knows Republicans are worried about the midterms. Iran knows MAGA does not want a new endless war. Iran knows Congress is beginning to reclaim its voice. And Iran knows that every time Trump says, very close, he is putting himself in a position where he must prove his words. A negotiator who constantly says he is about to win sometimes weakens his own position. Because if he does not win, he looks like a failure. If he wins through a weak agreement, he is suspected of selling out. If he continues the war, he betrays his promise to end it. If he retreats, hawks call him weak. Trump has locked himself inside the trap of his own brand. The art of the deal meets the art of the delay. He can delay, but he cannot delay forever. He can say a deal is coming, but eventually there must be a document. He can say Iran is weak, but if Iran still holds Hormuz hostage, reality will refute him. He can say the economy is strong, but if Fox polls show voters dissatisfied with the economy and inflation, he cannot simply shout fake news. He can say the war is necessary, but if Congress begins passing resolutions limiting war powers, he cannot pretend this is just normal executive business. The key point is that Trump is not being defeated by one single opponent in this story. He is being squeezed by multiple realities at once. Military reality. Iran has not been removed from the board. Energy reality. Hormuz proves that a strait can be more expensive than every slogan. Economic reality. Inflation and gas prices turn war into a kitchen table issue. Media reality. Fox begins replaying unfulfilled promises. Constitutional reality. Congress does not want to be turned into the audience of a war. Electoral reality. Voters are no longer patient with foreign policy adventures that make life more expensive. That is why the bad news Trump received was not merely a Fox segment. The real bad news is that the alliance between words and reality is broken apart. In Trump's politics, words always move ahead of reality. He says he is winning, then forces others to debate whether he is winning. He says the opponent is weak, then forces the media to verify it. He says the deal is coming, then uses that expectation to move through another news cycle. But there are fields where words are not powerful enough. War is one of them. The oil market is one of them. Gas prices are one of them. Congress's war authority is one of them. When bombs fall, people cannot pay with slogans. When gas prices rise, voters cannot fill their tanks with Truth Social. When Fox replays 9 weeks of almost done statements, Trump cannot say he never said them. This is the point the original transcript understood very well. The danger for Trump does not lie in the opposition attacking him. He is used to that. The danger lies in the system that protects him beginning to record his failure. Fox does not need to switch sides. Fox only needs to practice journalism for a few minutes. And those few minutes are enough to break the illusion. In the public eye, Trump was once the man who controlled the rhythm of the story. But Iran is taking that rhythm back. Every new attack raises a new question. Every oil market swing raises a new question. Every statement that a signing is close creates a new expectation. Every day, without specific details, thickens suspicion. And every bad economic poll turns the war into an electoral burden. What Trump needs now is not only a deal. He needs a deal real enough to convince the markets, strong enough to calm the hawks, soft enough to end the war, clear enough to ease congressional backlash, fast enough for voters to see energy prices fall, and beautiful enough for him to call it a victory. That is an almost impossible demand. If the agreement is too soft, hawkish conservatives will say he surrendered to Iran. If it is too hard, Iran may not sign or may not implement it. If it is too vague, the media will call it a performance. If there is no agreement, 9 weeks of promises become evidence of failure. If the war continues, Trump becomes what he once condemned, another Republican president trapped in the Middle East. And behind all of this are the voters. Voters do not need to understand every nuclear clause to know gas prices are rising. They do not need to track every shipping lane in Hormuz to know goods are becoming more expensive. They do not need to read every war powers resolution to understand that Congress is worried. They do not need to watch every Fox program certain to sense that even conservatives are no longer completely certain. Voters only need to feel that their lives are getting worse, while the president says everything is getting better. That gap is where governments lose power. Not because of one single scandal, not because of one single news report, but because people begin to realize that what they hear every day does not match what they live every day. Trump says peace is coming. They see war dragging on. Trump says Iran wants a deal. They see Hormuz being used as leverage. Trump says the economy is fine. They see inflation and gas prices. Trump says he controls everything. They see Fox airing a montage of 9 weeks of promises. Trump says the media lies. But this time his own words are the evidence. That is why this story has so much destructive power. It does not need a new accusation. It only needs memory. It only needs replay. It only needs to place Trump's statements next to the real timeline. And in politics, sometimes the most dangerous enemy is not an opponent. The most dangerous enemy is what you yourself said when you thought no one would count the days. 9 weeks is not any day now. 9 weeks is not very close. 9 weeks is not 2 or 3 days. 9 weeks is long enough for a promise to become doubt, for doubt to become a story, and for a story to become an election problem. If the Iran agreement eventually becomes a real success, Trump will try to turn it into a victory. He will say he pressured Iran, reopened Hormuz, lowered oil prices, and prevented a larger war. But even then, the Fox montage will leave a scar. Why did it take 9 weeks of saying almost done, while war, oil prices, and inflation continued making ordinary people pay? If the deal fails, that montage will become an indictment. And if the war continues, it will become a reminder that Trump did not merely misjudge Iran. He misjudged his own voters. They want lower prices, not more slogans. They want real peace, not a vague memorandum. They want a president who solves daily life, not one who stages another performance of power while gas money rises. In the end, the biggest question is not whether Fox has truly abandoned Trump. The bigger question is, what happens to Trump when the very people who once helped him tell the story of victory begin telling the story of delay? Because when opponents say you failed, that is politics. When allies replay your words and let time judge them, that is a crisis. And in the Iran crisis, Trump is no longer facing only Tehran, Hormuz, Congress, or the oil market. He is facing his own promises. An opponent he cannot fire, cannot call fake news, cannot punish, and cannot blame on Biden. Because it was recorded. And now even Fox is replaying it.